Sixth grade. This is Mr. James. Hope that you enjoyed your long weekend. This is just going to be our Monday video. Now, this week will be very normal, no short week. It's going to be a normal length week, so we'll have participation and homework and a full week to work on your memory verse. Again, remember to take notes because that will be a test grade at the end of quarter number 2. Now, some of you guys have said that I haven't made that clear. I mention that in all of my videos, and I post about it on our stream page in Google Classroom. So just as we get started, we're looking at daring to stand alone and acting like not a cool, but a fool. I'm sorry. So our memory verse is going to be from Proverbs 1:7, which says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction." Proverbs 1:7. That's our memory verse. Make sure to write it down. As we're getting started, we're looking at daring to stand and deciding what is important. Every Christian must decide who is going to be number one, whether it's ourself or Jesus. If Jesus is really in first place, it's because you have made a conscious decision to submit to him or to follow him. What is most important to you? Now, John the Baptist made some very important statements about what is important. In John 3:27, he said that a man could only receive what was given to him from heaven. Everything we have, our abilities, talents, possessions, and circumstances, has been given to us by God. Therefore, we should prioritize what God thinks is important, obeying God, being honest, and trusting God's plan. When we look at daring to stand, we also look at how to choose friends. Proverbs 1 teaches us a very important lesson about following the wrong kind of friends. Proverbs 1:10-16 says, "My son, if sinful men entice you, do not give to them. If they say, 'Come along with us, let's lie in wait for innocent blood. Let's ambush some harmless soul. Let's swallow them alive like the grave and whole. Like those who go down to the pit, we will get all sorts of valuable things and fill our houses with plunder. Cast lots with us, and we will all share the loot. My son, do not go along with them. Do not set foot on their paths, for their feet rush into evil." So wrong friends tempt us to do what is wrong. God warns us not to give into them. God does not want us to be involved in sinful acts. We should seek friends who love the Lord and who want to obey him, making Christ more important than any and everything else. It means giving your will to God, giving what you want to God. When you do this, you can be sure that God will begin to bless your life. You will still have problems, but the Lord will always do what is best for you, and he will always be with you. Now, speaking out boldly for what is right. John the Baptist continually put Jesus ahead of himself. This gave him boldness to stand alone for what was right. One time, John had to stand before the king Herod and speak the truth. Most people would try to say only pleasing things to someone as important as a king, but the Lord gave John the courage to speak out boldly. Now, doing what is right because it's right. It's sad to think of someone like John the Baptist dying as he did, and yet we must realize that God allows all things for a purpose in the life of a follower of Jesus. John had fulfilled God's purpose for his life, and God wanted him in heaven. Yes, John the Baptist lost his life for having the courage to do what was right, but he had the eternal knowledge that he had done God's will and the eternal blessing that followed. John 5:35 says, "John was a lamp that burned and gave light, and you chose for him a time to enjoy his light." John had John was a light, pointing the way to God. Our life principle here is going to be it is right to do right because it's right. It's good to do what is good because it is good. So now we're looking at acting like a fool. We have a lot of vocabulary. The main one that I want to look at here is covetous, which is jealousy or desiring what belongs to someone else. I want you guys to pause and kind of look through all of this vocab. Baal is a false god. We see what depraved, precept, provoke, reprobate, and meddling. Now, Jezebel was known as the queen of sin. The name Jezebel often is used as a nickname for an evil or wicked woman. But Jezebel was a real person in the Bible. She was so wicked that we remember her name and use it to describe a foolish and wicked woman, even though most people do not know her real story. Jezebel is sometimes called the queen of sin. 1 Kings 16:29-33. I'll go ahead and read it. Please follow along. It says, in the 38th year of Asa, king of Judah, Ahab, son of Omri, became king of Israel. And he reigned in Samaria over Israel 22 years. Ahab, son of Omri, in Samaria over Israel for 22 years. Ahab, son of Omri, did more evil in the eyes of the Lord than any of those before him. He not only considered it trivial to commit the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, but he also married Jezebel, daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Sidonians, and began to serve Baal and worship him. He set up an altar for Baal in the temple of Baal that he built in Samaria. Ahab also made the Asherah pole and did more to arouse the anger of the Lord, the God of Israel, than did all the kings of Israel before him. Ahab knew what was wrong in the eyes of God. He married someone that did not believe in God, but to help make his kingdom stronger, he married a heathen woman who worshipped idols, a false religion. Jezebel did not take long at all to make Baal worship the state religion. This religion was one of the most evil and wicked religions man had ever devised. And Jezebel's religion was false, and the rest of her life was also false, as you will see. Proverbs 13:5 says, the righteous hate what is false, but the wicked make themselves a stench and bring shame on others. Hebrews 3:12 says, see to it, brothers and sisters, that none of you has a sinful, unbelieving heart that turns away from the living God. And Romans 1:23 says, and exchange their glory for the immortal God, for images made to look like mortal human beings and birds and animals and reptiles. We need to see that it is not that none of us has sinful, unbelieving heart that turns away from the living God. Characteristics of a fool. Now, everything about Jezebel's life was false. Look up the following verses. I went ahead and pulled those up for you. Go ahead and read. We're going to read through those. Proverbs 20 verse 3 says, it is to one's honor to avoid strife, but every fool is quick to quarrel. Proverbs 29:11 says, fools give full vent to their rage, but the wise bring calm to the end. And Ecclesiastes 5:3 says, a dream comes when there are many cares, and many words mark the speech of a fool. Now, God does not want us to be a fool like Jezebel. He wants us to learn to have wisdom. And our life principle here is that if we do not grow up in the wisdom of God, we become fools. To conclude, remember we talked about covetousness. Jezebel was very interested in material things or possessions. She wanted wealth and was bitterly jealous of what others had. Both she and Ahab were covetousness. What you guys will be doing is please look up 1 Kings 21-15. 1 Kings 21, 1-15. Now, covetous is not just jealousy. Covetous is wanting something to the point that you would hurt somebody. You would do anything you could to have what that person had. Just not just saying, oh, I want that, but saying I covet it. I would do anything in this world to get that from that one person. So we're going to look at 1 Kings 21, 1-15. Sometime later, there was an incident involving a vineyard belonging to Naboth and Jezreelite. The vineyard was in Jezreel, close to the place of Ahab, king of Samaria. Ahab said to Naboth, "Let me have your vineyard to use for a vegetable garden, since it is close to my palace. In exchange, I will give you a better vineyard, or if you prefer, I will pay you whatever it is worth." But Naboth replied, "The Lord forbid that I should give you the inheritance of my ancestors." So Ahab went, sullen and angry, because Naboth the Jezreelite had said, "I will not give you the inheritance of my ancestors." He lay on his bed, sulking and refusing to eat. His wife, Jezebel, came in and asked him, "Why are you so sullen? Why won't you eat?" He answered her, "Because I said to Naboth the Jezreelite, 'Sell me your vineyard,' or if you prefer, I will give you another vineyard in its place." But he said, "I will not give you my vineyard." Jezebel, his wife, said, "Is this how you act as king over Israel? Get up and eat. Cheer up. I'll get you the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite." So she wrote a letter to Ahab's name, placed his seal on them, and sent them to the elders and the nobles who lived in Naboth's city with them. In those letters she wrote, "Proclaim a day of fasting and seat Naboth in a prominent place among the people. But seat 2 scoundrels opposite him and have them bring charges that he has cursed both God and the king. Then take him out and stone him to death." So the elders and nobles who lived in Naboth's city did as Jezebel directed in the letter she had written to them. They proclaimed a fast and seated Naboth in a prominent place among the people. Then 2 scoundrels came and sat opposite him and brought charges against Naboth before the people, saying, "Naboth has cursed both God and king." So they took him outside the city and stoned him. Then they sent word to Jezebel, "Naboth has been stoned." This is the story of covetousness. Jezebel and her husband did anything they could to get this land, so much so to the point that they killed him just so they could have it. So 6th grade, I hope you enjoyed this video, short video. Again, I'll post a participation as well with this, and then turn in your notes for this video as well. But guys, I hope you had a great Monday. If you have other questions, let me know. I'd love to help you guys. Bye.